Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadesha Tarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Prabhu, you have a phone, right? You got a telephone. Can you phone, you got Sachi Kumar's number? Oh. Oh yeah, sorry. Could you ask him to bring my water? Thank you. Excuse us, devotees, for that little deviation. Hare Krishna. हरी बोल। आपकी तबीयत कैसी है? ठीक है? नहीं जानता हूँ। I pray to Krishna.
पुराना गाड़ी।
मालूम है. Me too. Okay, devotees, so excuse us for that little aside. I'm going to read 28 again, because we read where Krishna said that you just offer him leaf, flower, fruit or water in devotion, he'll accept it. Then he said in 28, just whatever you do, anything you do, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerity you perform, we should do that as an offering to him. And now 28, he's saying, what is the result? In this way you'll be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you'll be liberated and come to me. Yeah, we can just note a couple of things, not a lot, but you can see right at the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada quotes famous verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Nectar of Devotion, and it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upiyunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Which means that one who's not attached to anything for themselves, understanding that everything is the property of Krishna, becomes rightly situated above possessiveness. Just by understanding it belongs to Krishna, that's it. Therefore it's not mine. And what business do I have with it? Nothing. But we can use these things in Krishna's service. So it's like that. Krishna's saying, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, all of these things, none of these things are yours. Whatever you do, you can't do it for yourself. Because your body is not yours. It's Krishna's. You can't use your body for yourself. You're the eternal spirit soul. The body is the vehicle. And it's Krishna's vehicle. It's not your vehicle. You can't just go use somebody else's vehicle just like that. Forget it. So whatever you do with this body, you must do for Krishna, because it's Krishna's body. You have no right, thank you, to do anything for yourself. Whatever you eat, same principle. Whatever you offer or give away, how can you give something away which belongs to someone else? How can you do that? You can't give away to someone else, to someone, something which is the property of a third person. It doesn't belong to you. So whatever you give away, you have to give to Krishna. Then you're not really giving it away, you're just returning it to the rightful owner. So that's the principle there in all these things. As far as verse 28 is concerned, let's just have another quick little look. Oh, and in the second paragraph, yeah. Srila Prabhupada says, anyone who lives like this is a sannyasi. It's at the beginning of the second paragraph. Anyone who has no interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually a sannyasi. Haribol, that's all of you devotees. Yes. So Prabhupada makes the point that because in this same paragraph where Prabhupada talks about everyone's a sannyasi, who's dedicating his life to the Lord, the point is that Prabhupada's making is whatever the devotee does is for the Lord. It's not for himself or herself. And this, for most people, is quite difficult to understand. That such and such person's working hard for someone else and getting nothing. Of course, they're getting mercy internally, mercy in many ways. But in the sort of normal material way, they're getting nothing. Therefore, in the last paragraph, Prabhupada says, and it's a nice point, it is said therefore by Vaishnava authorities that even the most intelligent person who's not a devotee cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. And Prabhupada quotes this verse from Caitanya Charitamrita, and I'm going to read the whole verse and the translation as it appears there. Yanrachite Krishna prema karaye udoy, tanravakya kriya mudra, vigyeha nabujai. Even the most learned person cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in love of Godhead. And of course, it's not only those who are situated in love of Godhead. There's so many people who can't understand what devotees do. But anyway, by dedicating oneself like this, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, whatever you do, just offering certain foodstuffs, all these things, by doing like this, you go back home, back to Godhead. That's the point. And we have a special question here for those of you doing Bhakti Shastri, based on this verse 28, and it's referring actually to Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 1 verse 94. Adi Leela 1:94. All kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna are actions of the darkness of ignorance. Wow, that's powerful, isn't it? And the question is that, citing a verse that was mentioned in class, this Adi Lila 194, pertaining to auspicious and inauspicious activities, what can be said about both auspicious and inauspicious activities that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna? So what can be said? Are they not as important as devotional service? Should they be performed in relation to Krishna? Do they gradually lead one to Krishna? Or are these activities of the darkness of ignorance? Well, what Prabhupada said there is they are of the darkness of ignorance. Okay, so we go on now. We're going to finish the chapter. Let's go on to verses 29, 30, and 31. And the idea here, this is very special. This is really super special. The idea is, from verse 29 to 31, that a devotee, even if committing a horrible activity, is to be considered saintly and quickly becomes righteous. Then Krishna asks Arjuna to declare it boldly that his devotee is never vanquished. So let's read these three verses, just the verses. 29. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. 30. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination. And 31. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Wow, this is just amazing. So, okay, let's have a look at 29. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. Now, so there are two categories of persons mentioned here. There's the people in general, and Krishna, in regard to them, Krishna says, I envy no one, I'm not partial to anyone, I'm equal to all of them. That means the people in general. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion. So this is a second category. Even though Krishna said, I'm equal to all, he was referring to the people in general. Otherwise, how could it be that Krishna immediately now starts talking about how he treats a certain category differently? There would be no sense in it. So when Krishna says, I'm equal to all, he's referring to the non-devotees. But then the devotees, they get special treatment. They are friends of Krishna. They are in Krishna, and he is a friend to them. So this is very special treatment. Just a sec. So, the first two lines, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone, I'm equal to all. This is referring to how the supersoul, Paramatma, just sees everyone gets, all the non-devotees, they get their karma. And there's nothing you can do. If it's time to get your karma, then you cannot talk your way out of it. You cannot bribe your way out of it. You will get your karma. And the Lord sees you get your karma. Actually, the demigods, they're the ones who actually give you your karma, but the Lord is overseeing, as we read earlier, at a bit of a distance, not getting too involved, in fact, hardly involved, but just, he's observing. Mayad yakshena prakriti. It's going on under his eyes. He is watching, and if necessary, it's very rare, but he may intervene. But otherwise, when, by the arrangement of the Supersoul, ultimately, for example, some criminal is sentenced to go to jail forever, it is not an expression of the Lord's dislike for the person. And when some other person, somehow or other, they come into a whole lot of money, then, according to their karma, then it is not an expression of the Lord's special favor. That, oh, what a nice person, I'm going to give him lots of money. And the other one, the criminal, oh, I don't like him, I'm going to see he gets locked up. No, impartial. As Krishna says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all of the non-devotees. That's very important. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, in other words, Krishna gives the devotees special treatment. As we did mention in regard to verse 22, I don't know if you remember that Krishna, if someone is lacking, a devotee is lacking, Krishna delivers. If someone has something but they may lose it, a devotee, then Krishna preserves what they have. And we mentioned then that in this way Krishna contradicts the laws of karma for his devotee. And this is what is being talked about here. Yes. And it'll become even more clear when we get to verse 30. Yeah. But anyway, otherwise, Prabhupada in, let's see, we are in verse 29, and it's in this main paragraph. It's like the second half of the first paragraph. The second half, more or less. Prabhupada responds to the possible argument that Krishna is being unfair by giving special treatment to the devotees, and just, the others, they just get whatever they deserve. But Prabhupada says that it is not, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, actually, he addresses it in the beginning of the purport also. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is a special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees? But this is not discrimination, it's natural. Any man in the material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. Yes. And he gives his children special treatment. Even though he does give charity, to others, he helps others out sometimes. But he looks after his children. And the devotees are like those dependent children of Krishna. And he gives them special treatment, just like someone gives their children special treatment, and it's natural. You cannot accuse Krishna, you cannot accuse a parent of doing something wrong if they give special treatment to their own children. That's the principle. And now verse 30, this is where it gets really intense. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination, means his basic determination at heart, although the mind sometime may go off in the wrong direction. So, So this is the example of Krishna giving special treatment. Because normally if someone does something abominable, very bad, in the verse, if you look at the Sanskrit, Sudur Acha. Acha means activity. Dur Acha means bad activity. Sudur Acha means very bad activity. In material life, if someone does very bad activity, well, we just mentioned about someone being locked up in prison for many years, or someone may go to hell for many, many years and lifetimes if they do things really bad. But a devotee, as long as the devotee within the heart has that determination to be a devotee, then not only will Krishna protect him or her, but that person must be considered saintly. And in the purport, I want to just read, if I can find, yes, here it is, second paragraph. Second paragraph. What now? What is going on here? Second. Oh, okay. So the second paragraph, the word Sadur Eva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. They're a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly, even if he's accidentally fallen down. And the word mantavya is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. So if one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. So now I want to, just to go into this more deeply, I want to read a couple of paragraphs actually from a class given by Srila Prabhupada on this verse, and these, I think these three verses even, but particularly the part now is regarding this verse. Please listen to it carefully. It'll take 5 minutes, but please listen. Prabhupada says, so now somebody may ask that if a devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord, that's all right. But if his behavior is not up to the standard, then what happens to him? Of course, a devotee is naturally developing the 26 good qualities. But even if he does not develop those qualities, of course, that very quality that he's a devotee of Krishna, that is sufficient. But still, if somebody is not up to the point but he is unflinching, not moving. He's a perfect devotee of Krishna. Then Lord Krishna says, apichet sudurachara. Apichet sudurachara. Durachara means his conduct is not good. And sudurachara means still further, even worse than not good. So apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak. Ananyabhak means without deviating his attention to any other demigod or any other business. If one is simply 100% engaged in my service, but his character is, his general activities are not so much to the point, still the Lord says, sadhur eva samantavya. Sadhu means a pious man or religious man. Sadhu means the honest man. And all good qualities. Still, although he has found that he's not up to the standard, but his only qualification is that he's acting in Krishna consciousness sincerely, it may be, suppose I have got some bad character from the beginning of my life, but I've understood that Krishna consciousness is very nice, I shall take to it. So I'm trying my best, but at the same time, because I'm habituated to something, I cannot give it up. Although I know that this, my habit, is not good, but still habit is the second nature. I cannot give it up. So Lord Krishna recommends that still he is good. There's no question that he is not a sadhu, or he is not an honest, a religious man. That simple one qualification that he's Krishna conscious, and he's acting sincerely, but failing sometime. But still, he is to be taken as sadhu. Sadhu means honest, religious, pious. Sadhur eva samantavya. And one may say that yes, because he's devotee of God, devotee of Krishna, we may call him sadhu, but not 100%. But Krishna says, no, 100% sadhu. In spite of his bad character, he is 100% sadhu. So this is the recommendation. Why? Why is Krishna stressing on this point? That whatever he may be, still he is honest, he is sadhu, he is religious, he's pious. Why? That is to be understood in the next verse. So this sudurachara means that according to time, according to circumstances, so many influences, just like I've come to your country, and rigid regulation, as far as rigid regulations and rules are concerned, in the beginning, of course, we don't find opportunities to strictly follow. But still, we should not give so much attention for the regulation or strict rules and regulation. But we must see how much a person is attached in Krishna consciousness. That we have to see. And if we go on criticizing everyone, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, so many things according to Vedic culture, there may be so many things, but we are not concerned. As far as possible, people should be given chance to develop Krishna consciousness. So there's more, but I think you get the idea, the flexibility there. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented in the same way, but in the form of conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So listen to this, devotees. It's very beautiful. So Krishna says, I've just said that I'm equal to everyone, but if my devotees perform improper acts, I don't reject them. Arjuna asks, if one sees a person doing like this, how could one think he is a sadhu? If you see a devotee doing something wrong, how could you think he's a sadhu? Krishna says, you should think like this. My order is the proof. Arjuna says, when he's worshipping, he may be a sadhu, but when he's doing nonsense, he's not sadhu. Krishna, no, He's only a sadhu in every regard because he's properly resolved to serve me. Arjuna then says, such an irreligious man who's rendering service, how do you accept his service? His heart is polluted by lust, greed, anger, and his offerings are polluted by such things. Then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Lord Krishna speaks the first half of the next verse. Let's speak that. Verse 31, first half. So Krishna says he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So then this discussion goes on between our Acharya, sort of both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhushan. I've kind of combined them. Now this is the purport, their purports to the verse 31 in regard to he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So therefore his service is accepted. So Krishna says, very quickly he becomes righteous. Then I accept his offerings. He quickly becomes righteous because he laments, remembering me again and again. He thinks, alas, alas, there's no other devotee like me. I'm like a black spot among the devotees. In this way his heart burns in the fire of lamentation. Again and again he curses himself. Through experiencing the burning fire of this ordeal, he becomes purified. He thinks, I am unable to give up this sinful activity, and I'm going to go to hell for this, but I'll never give up devotional service to Krishna. Because of this determination, I keep him a sadhu, and I accept the impurity of his activity. Sure, this is powerful stuff, super powerful. Arjuna then responds, I understand he becomes righteous, there's no dispute, but what if he remains sinful? If he does abominable activities during his life, should we still consider him a sadhu? Krishna becomes angry. His eyes become enlarged. He says, Konteya pratijanihi, my devotee never perishes. Even if he dies, he does not go down. There is no need for prayaschita. My unalloyed devotee, if by mistake he acts improperly, he'll become purified by my power and again attain me. So when Krishna said like this, Arjuna put his hand on his head and said in great anxiety, many people will not agree. And he became morose. How can I help them to understand this? Krishna says, take mridangas, take kartals, take drums, and bang everything loudly, and go to where they're speaking like this, and raise both hands in the air, and take a vow. Take an oath in my name and say like this, the devotee of the Lord, even if improperly behaving, will never perish. He will reach the proper destination. And when you speak like this, all the people will fall at your feet and say, Maharaj, you are our guru. Anyway, that is quite something, isn't it? That is just quite something. So, the question is sometimes raised, why? Because now we're in 31, you see. And in the verse, Lord Krishna says, "O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes." In other words, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So some may question, and it's a reasonable question, Krishna's God, why doesn't he declare it boldly? He's such an important person. Who's Arjuna? He's just a devotee, a human being, a Kshatriya. He's not even a Brahmin. But the thing is this, that sometimes Krishna, for the sake of his devotee, breaks his promise, his general promises. Just like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna promised not to fight. He would just be the chariot driver of Arjuna. But then when Arjuna was in danger, Bhishma looked like he was going to kill him. Then Krishna picked up the wheel of the chariot and attacked Bhishma. Krishna fought. And you may have seen, there's a picture, you get so many pictures, but there's a picture of Krishna rushing forward with the wheel of the chariot over his head, with Arjuna holding on, sort of like a rugby tackle, if you know what I mean, holding on to him, trying to stop him. Because Arjuna is aware that Krishna has given his word. He's not going to fight. But now he's fighting, and what will people say? That he gave his word, but then he broke his word, so, why should we take him seriously? Now, this is quite a point, isn't it? But when the devotee declares something, then Krishna feels, I must make it come right. I must make it come true. Krishna protects his devotee, and he protects the words of his devotee. So therefore Krishna said, you declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. In other words, Krishna always protects his devotee. Yeah. And then Krishna will always do that. Okay. Very good. So let us move on. Anyway, but having said that, let me just add, having said that, and Prabhupada does discuss this in the purport of verse 30 more, that we cannot use this as an excuse. That Krishna says, oh, even if a devotee does some really bad things, he must still be considered a sadhu and not judged on the basis of the bad activity. Prabhupada makes the point in the purport that if a devotee, it's one thing doing it, accidentally sometime, or even having a habit, but it's another thing to deliberately do these things and to really just become kind of fixed in lower class activity. That's another thing. And Prabhupada says there, right at the end of the purport of verse 30, right at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, as long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he's no longer subjected to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it's to be understood that he is not a high devotee. Okay, so there you go. So let's go on now to the last 3 verses. It's a little subsection of its own, verses 32, 33, and 34. And we call this, by thinking of Krishna and serving him, etc., regardless of one's position materially, one will come to him. Yes, so let's read the verses. 32. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Sudras, or workers, can attain the supreme destination. 33. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmins, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. And 34, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. All right, so verse 32, let's have a look there. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Sudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. So we all, we can understand how some people, even some devotees, might take exception to women being included there in that grouping, women, Vaishyas, and Sudras. But the thing is, particularly in Kali Yuga, there's a famous saying which, you may or may not have heard of, but it's a famous saying. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everyone is born a Sudra. Sudra means just labor, the lowest class beyond those who are just completely out of it. Really completely out of it. Like the Chandalas, the Malechas, and those types of people, the avid meat eaters. So we are all born Sudras. And then there's another verse, famous verse, which so famous you might not have heard of it. Haribol. Janmana Jayate Sudra, which is the same, it's just saying, by birth, Janmana Jayate. By birth, everyone is a Sudra. So that's the position of all of us. None of us really have the right to become proud and say, well, look at me, I'm not a woman, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Sudra, look at me, I'm a devotee, I'm qualified in this way and that. And none of us really have that right, because we're all born Sudras, or at best, at the very, very best, we are born Sudras. But through training, one becomes elevated. And Prabhupada discusses this in the purport. Just give me a sec. What's going on here? Anyway, we'll carry on. In the purport of verse 32, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, it is clearly declared here. It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service there is no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions, but for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. So that means all of you devotees, you see? It means all of you devotees, don't make the mistake of thinking that on the basis of this verse, we should now start taking into serious consideration what is the position of any other devotee. Any other devotee. What is the position of any other devotee in terms of birth? Be it as a woman or in racial terms, or, in standing in society, whatever. And Prabhupada goes on. In the Bhagavatam, it's stated that even the lowest, who are called chandalas, the dog eaters, that means they're lower than women, vaishyas, and sudras, that they can be purified by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there's no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men, means in material terms. Anyone can take to it. So you get the idea. And Prabhupada at the end of the purport says, generally the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes, but the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all the lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. Therefore, this is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna under Srila Prabhupada, frankly, and those who follow Prabhupada. Otherwise, sorry, it's not going to work. So we got to finish the chapter. Anyway, I think we've basically covered the point there. It's clear enough, as long as your mind doesn't get too hung up on these material things. So 33 then. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmins, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary, miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. So I don't think we really need to say much about that. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. It's the same principle, but just that even more so, those people who are kind of naturally qualified. And 34, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. You get it? Krishna's talking about himself. You get it? You get the message? He mentions me 1, 2, 3, 5 times. 5 times, plus become my devotee. You couldn't really emphasize it much more than that. So, of course, first thing is to be conscious of Krishna. We have to think of Krishna. That's what we have to do. How can you be Krishna conscious if you're not conscious of Krishna? Hari Bol. How can you be Krishna conscious or said to be in Krishna consciousness if you're not thinking of Krishna? It's just, it's a nonsense. So first of all, we must think of Krishna, then become his devotees, then offer obeisances to him and worship him. And like this, we'll come to him. One of our acharyas says, the mind should be fixed on Krishna uninterruptedly, like honey flows from a bottle. Yeah. So the first thing is to fix the mind, not just work, work, work. And that's what these courses are about. That's what this Bhakti Shastri course we're doing is about. That's what it's about. It's all about consciousness, learning about Krishna, coming to know and understand Krishna, and how to approach Krishna. Yes, like this. So much work can be done for anyone, but the mind is the key. One should not just work and the mind be elsewhere. This is not real devotion. So let me just read a little bit from the purport. I'm going to read, it's the last paragraph. There is a beautiful poem about Krishna in which it is clearly stated that any person who's engaged in the worship of demigods is most unintelligent and cannot achieve at any time the supreme award of Krishna. The devotee in the beginning may sometimes fall from the standard, but still he should be considered superior to all other philosophers and yogis. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be a perfectly saintly person. Let me just throw something at you in that regard. Sometimes, I've definitely had the experience on a fair number of occasions, maybe not a huge number, but yeah, quite some occasions. Some devotee who is living in the material world, but coming to the temple engaged in service, but also mixing with non-devotees regularly through work, basically. I've had them come to me on, I don't know how many occasions, but some number, and say that, such and such devotee or devotees, they don't treat me nicely, and their character, and the karmis treat me better. Some of the karmis treat me really nicely, much better than such and such devotee or devotees even. And, of course, it's an interesting point. It's not an unimportant point. But the thing is that someone, even if they have all the good qualifications of the demigods, but they're not devotees, they will not accept Krishna. They will not accept Krishna consciousness. Then, sorry, they don't count. Whereas some person, devotee, even if their character is not good, they may be a bit crude or rude or a little hard or something, a little unpleasant, but they're very dedicated to Krishna. They're better. They're much better. And we should try to learn how to make these distinctions. But anyway, let's carry on in the purport here. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be a perfectly saintly person. His accidental non-devotional activities will diminish, and he'll soon be situated without any doubt in complete perfection. The pure devotee has no actual chance to fall down, because the Supreme Godhead personally takes care of his pure devotees. Therefore, the intelligent person should take directly to the process of Krishna consciousness and happily live in this material world. He will eventually receive the supreme award of Krishna. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the most confidential knowledge. So, we are right in the middle of Bhagavad Gita, devotees. We are exactly in the middle. For that matter, this verse 34, our previous acharyas, they say that this is the essence of all confidential knowledge. The essence of all confidential knowledge. So there you go, devotees. Thank you for listening very patiently. We will gather again tomorrow evening, of course, and we'll start the 10th chapter, and there's some nectar to be had there also. There's some real nectar. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.